Thanks for joining me today. We're doing a live session on ConnecTra's Facebook Live and also Zoom with the Disability Foundation. My name is Renee, and I'm super excited to share with you some nutrition information as well as a small cooking demo after the session. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to start off with a little webinar that I've created for you today, and we're talking about GERD and acid reflux. A lot of people suffer from acid from the stomach coming back into the esophagus, and you can tell, everybody suffers from it once in a while, but if it does bother you more often, then you might want to seek out a doctor or your dietitian. All right, so I'm Renee. I have a master's degree in clinical nutrition and also a registered dietitian. And I am in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and I own this company called True Nosh. And it is all about eating without sugar, making products that are all gluten-free and also vegetarian. So thanks for joining me, and let's go and talk about why we're talking about acid reflux and GERD. So GERD is a digestive disorder, actually, and it occurs when acid from the stomach comes back up into the esophagus, and you will sometimes feel like you can taste your food that's a little bit more acidic, and it can irritate the lining of your esophagus, which causes a little burning sensation, and that's not always very nice when you feel that way. But it doesn't occur often for regular people, but some people actually has this problem every day. And GERD affects many people of all different ages, from infants to older adults. People with asthma are actually at a higher risk of developing GERD, mostly because of the medications that they are on. So some complications over time if GERD doesn't disappear on its own, or you don't treat it with medication or diet practices. And I'll talk about different types of practices and lifestyle changes, as well as nutrition information that you can take on later on to see if you can decrease your GERD symptoms and attacks. So if you have persistent GERD, sometimes the narrowing of the esophagus, so it's esophageal stricture, because the damage done from the acid coming back can occur in the esophagus and form scar tissues. And then if the scar tissue forms and doesn't go away, it forms a blockage and can lead to swallowing problems. And that's not good, because we need to swallow to absorb nutrients. So also, if it occurs long enough, an open sore can be in the esophagus. And the acid can wear away tissues in the esophagus and cause this sore to be an open sore, and can lead to bleeding, pain, and obviously you can't swallow because there's so much pain. And then sometimes it can lead to precancerous changes in the esophagus, and sometimes it's called the Barrett's esophagus. And damage from this stomach acid causes changes in the tissue in your esophagus and can lead to an increased risk of esophageal cancers. So if you have persistent effects of GERD and always have acid reflux, you do want to go to a doctor and see what things that they can do to minimize the acid from coming back up to your esophagus. All right, so some risks. People experience reflux, and it happens, when you burp, and then you feel an acidic taste in your mouth, or you feel some sort of heartburn, right? Heartburn is a symptom of GERD, and they can interfere with your daily life. These are often symptoms that occur less frequently, but then if you think that you experience these symptoms often, you should go and seek out some help with a doctor. So you can see acid regurgitation, retasting your food after eating it, pain or difficulty swallowing. There's a sudden excess of saliva, so you have a lot of moisture in your mouth. That can be because of GERD. And then a sore throat that doesn't go away, okay? Laryngitis, or when you speak, there's hoarseness in your voice. And if you have gum disease and it constantly is inflamed, you want to go and take a look at that. Cavities can also be an indication that you have GERD, and bad breath and sometimes chest pain. So you want to seek medical help when you have these symptoms that occur more frequently. Other risks, so obesity can also cause increased risk of GERD because you have excessive tissue that causes the bulging of your stomach and can cause that stomach acid to go back up to the esophagus. You have hernia that can also be something that you need to take a look at when you go see a doctor if you have pain in the chest. Pregnancy, the baby can also cause the stomach to bulge up and can squeeze that stomach fluid back up into your esophagus. And then also connective tissue disorders such as scleroderma and this delayed stomach emptying. So I'm just going to take off the screen for a moment, just to escape this. All right. Apologies. And then factors that can aggravate acid reflux can include, well, if you're a smoker, if you're eating large meals all the time, or you're eating late at night, all right? Certain foods that are considered triggers, such as really fatty foods or deep fried foods, you want to stay away from. And sometimes really high acidic foods, such as citrus foods, lemons and oranges and grapefruits. And also sometimes like tomatoes can also cause trigger foods to cause your stomach acid to increase and back up into your esophagus. Certain beverages, such as alcohol, coffee, and some medications such as aspirin can also lead to acid reflux. When your doctor diagnoses you with GERD, you can expect to get an X-ray of the upper chest or your upper digestive system. They can also put in a camera into your esophagus to look around inside, and that's called an endoscopy. And then there's also a pH test, or an ambulatory acid test, that monitors the amount of acid in your esophagus. And then your esophageal impedance test, also the movement of the substance that goes back into the esophagus. So these are some things that your doctor can suggest you go to screen your digestive system to see if you have acid reflux. Some treatments and management, including, if you're overweight, try to lose some weight. If you are already at a healthy weight, maintain that weight, all right? Stop smoking is really important if you are a smoker. Decrease alcohol and caffeine intake. We'll talk about that later. Why? Limiting the size of your meals and your bite sizes. If you're eating large meals, you can continue eating, but try to limit the bite size. And if you can see, if you can try to visualize your plate and eat half of it first. Divide that plate in half, and if you can finish it in small bite sizes, then slowly add a little bit more. But try to avoid heavy meals, especially during times at night, because you're always going to lie down ultimately. And lying down can also cause the stomach acid to backflow. So try not to lie down or sit, too low or in a reclined position within 2 to 3 hours of eating. Chewing is super important too, because a lot of people don't even chew and they just swallow. And that's a common practice in our world today, which is very unfortunate. Chewing is really important, and you take time to really taste your food and to really start the digestive process in your mouth. And there's also these enzymes in your mouth called amylase can also break down starches before it hits the esophagus and your stomach, and it actually aids in digestion. So you want to keep the food in your mouth for a little bit longer. Maybe try counting or try doubling the time. And when you're ready to swallow, it should be more of um, a gooey substance before you swallow, because chewing can help your body know that you're eating food. As we said before in a previous session, that your stomach takes about 15 minutes to know that you've eaten something, and it tells your brain that you've eaten something. So chewing also helps elongate that time so you can eat slower and less food. Your physician may also recommend medications to treat reflux. So sometimes, you know, you can go to a drugstore and antacids or H2 blockers may decrease the effect of stomach acid. These are also called proton pump inhibitors, because protons are essentially hydrogen and they're acidic and can also be effective in decreasing stomach acid. So if you're really experiencing bad heartburn, you might want to consider a antacid such as Tums, right, or Pepcid to help you alleviate some symptoms. But a long-term a sustainable nutrition regimen can really decrease your chances of getting more acid reflux attacks, okay? So what is the Gerd diet? There's really no prescribed Gerd diet, but some things I'm going to tell you is try to eat complex carbs versus simple carbs. And what complex carbs are? Whole fruits and whole vegetables and whole grains. All right, so try to limit your intake of white rice and white flour. If you always go to the grocery store, try to look at whole grain pasta and brown rice and quinoa. Those are all really good substitutes for white rice and regular flour. Excuse me. You want to avoid foods that have food and beverages, right, that has high fructose corn syrup. That's a simple carb, and limit the consumption of sweet fruit juices. All right, juices don't have the fiber and the protein in it. It really is a lot of sugar, and that's in a simple form, and you want to try to limit that and try to eat a whole fruit, and sample for like a whole vegetable or a whole peach, right? And eating fruits that have lower acid. So citrus foods and juices have high acidity. You can also avoid things like garlic and onion or spicy foods, as well as some tomato products. I'm going to teach you later how to change up some products that are known to be higher in acid and decreasing it by adding different types of vegetables, right? And yeah, some people feel that chocolate also worsen their GERD sensation, so you want to also limit the amount of chocolate that you eat. So fats, well, saturated fats from red meat and fatty poultry and high fat dairy can also cause increase in acid reflux. Try to limit high fat foods, especially when foods are deep fried. Fatty ground beef, you can choose a leaner percentage when you buy ground meat. And sausages, hot dogs, bratwurst, and chicken nuggets and chicken wings are also things that you want to limit. And try to choose leaner cuts of meat, such as chicken breast, okay? Whole milk chocolate, we talked about it, and regular salad dressings, they also have high fat, so try to look for like polyunsaturated fats. If you're looking at a Caesar dressing, maybe go for like the Italian dressing instead. And pastries such as donuts and other forms of danishes can also be really high in fat, and candy bars as well. So fat actually takes a little bit longer to digest and may actually worsen reflux. Proteins, so you want to focus on leaner cuts, especially when you are choosing your meats, when you're going out to buy cuts in the meat section in the grocery store. Try to look for the lower fat in your ground beef. Try to look for the chicken breast or the ground turkey instead. And you want to eat proteins in smaller amounts throughout the day versus a large, big piece of protein, all right? And then, you know, if you're choosing cheeses, try to use a low-fat cheese or try to use smaller amounts, right? And smaller amounts meaning you can grate the cheese to make it feel like there's more of it. And even using beans and chickpeas versus meats with high saturated fats can also increase your amount of fiber in your protein intake as well. Some lifestyle changes that might help you decrease your chances of acid reflux. Try sleeping on your left side. Thinking right is wrong, which is an oxymoron, but you want to think that the gravity can pull your stomach to one side, and the way that your stomach is connected in your body, sleeping on your left side can help alleviate some of the pressure that's on your stomach, and you can try that for a few nights to see if that can help. Wear loose clothing. The tighter the clothing, the more pressure that you put on your stomach, and then can also to increase your chances of the acid coming back into your esophagus. So loose clothing works. And if you don't know what foods trigger your symptoms, maybe write down a diary for at least a week to see what foods and habits cause symptoms. And you want to make sure that you write down the spices also, including the amount that you eat, and the time also is important too. Relax during meal times. People are always on the go. Try to sit down for meals and snacks, and don't grab and go and eat on the run, because eating too quickly will always be not a good thing for your stomach, and also the digestion is impaired, all right? And give your body enough time to feel satisfied, all right? We talked about eating smaller meals and more often. So instead of eating 3 large meals a day, try to split it up into 4 or 5 meals each time and see if that helps, all right? Pausing mid-meal to see if you're actually satisfied, because people often don't think when they're eating, and usually if there's a big meal, they just gobble it down and then do something else because there's other things that they're putting in their priority list versus their health, all right? And when you're chewing gum, try to limit the mint versions, and try to also limit hard candies and use drinking soft drinks or fountain drinks. Carbonation also is a form of acid, so you don't really want to drink too much carbonated drinks, because this will decrease the amount of swallowed air in your stomach, which often leads to reflux. Mint also relaxes your esophageal sphincter, and therefore, if the sphincter is relaxed, then stomach acid can easily flow through. So if you're a gum chewer, try to find a non-mint flavored gum, or, you know, wait at least 30 minutes after a meal, all right? Beverages that you want to reconsider. Alcohol is one. Beer and distilled liquors are associated with increasing gout, we talked about, and also reoccurring Gerd. And try to moderate your consumption and avoid or limit alcohol, especially carbonated drinks, because carbonated drinks are higher in acidity. Caffeine. Some research suggests that caffeinated beverages such as coffee, tea, and soft drinks are associated with acid reflux. And drinking caffeinated drinks may not be appropriate also if you're taking medicine and other medical conditions. So you always want to talk to your doctor about how much caffeine is right for you. Your goals. So achieving a healthier weight with good eating habits can decrease the pressure on your stomach, and avoiding foods that have high acid, high fats, and simple carbs. You want to go with low acidity foods, lower fatty foods, and more complex carbs. Weight loss is important if you are overweight. because overweight increases your chances of developing GERD, and losing weight lowers the risk of that. Research suggests that, reducing the number of calories and losing weight, even without an acid-restricted diet, lowers the pressure of the esophagus and the stomach. So also losing weight can lessen the overall stress in your body as well. You always want to choose water over any other beverages, okay? And we talked about caffeine, why it's associated with increased reflux, but carbonated drinks also have increased air and acid in them, so you want to stay away from carbonated drinks. Choosing water is the best and sipping it throughout the day. Exercising also really helps you increase your digestion and helps you to increase your blood circulation and helps you lose weight if you need to. And losing weight and keeping a healthy weight prevents acid reflux. And exercise is known to increase your serotonin levels, therefore manage your stress too. So you also want to manage your stress levels to decrease the amount of acid buildup in your system. A lot of people ask me, well, what are some supplements that they can eat to reduce GERD? And there's a lot out there. I don't really want to specify any supplements, but you really want to understand that supplements are not exactly approved by the FDA and the effectiveness is not always correct. Some manufacturers list ingredients on the label, but it doesn't actually, are tested inside the bottle. So that's also something that you want to be cautious of. And you can always go to the Natural Medicines Comprehensive Database to see and confirm the safety and effectiveness of some drugs that are out there. Physical activity is super important for GERD and lowering acid reflux, all right? So you can take up like light jogging or, walking on the spot or doing stretches and some yoga. That can also really help with the overall general health and circulation and decrease the pressure on your stomach and help you improve your digestion as well. And building muscles help protect against obesity, right? It increases your metabolism. Muscles promote insulin sensitivity, therefore decreasing your chances of getting diabetes. And most importantly, it promotes circulation, and it plays an important role in preventing chronic diseases. And as you know, in the very first slide, we talked about chronic GERD leads to a lot of different chronic diseases, just as esophageal cancer. And muscles are really important, especially in the old age, because it increases your lean body mass. Therefore, if your lean body mass is higher, then you won't have a higher risk of getting osteoporosis. As a summary, we want to focus on choosing your health. So some lifestyle modifications are important. Quitting smoking if you're a smoker. There are a lot of support out there that can help you quit smoking. Talk to your pharmacist. Increasing physical activity, we talked about that. It also decreases your risk of heart disease. Maintaining a healthy weight is very important. Being overweight or obese impacts blood flow, okay, and also increases the pressure on your stomach to help you decrease your amount of acid to build up and push back into your esophagus. Maintaining a healthy weight is really, very important. Following a healthy diet, we talked about particular foods such as whole foods, vegetables, healthy fats, and fiber-rich foods. Staying hydrated with water and decaffeinated drinks such as herbal teas can help. Reducing your stress also is a very significant factor. Try, taking up meditation or even gardening, talking to a friend, watching something that is a comedy can help you manage your stress as well. And sometimes you just really need to put into your calendar that you need a break every hour and a half, okay? Maintaining health is more than just one pill or one food or even one nutrition lab result or one type of exercise. Balancing a overall good diet, exercising, and mindful eating are also important. Mindful eating, one of the things that we learned in a previous session, is really understanding what your body needs. Are you going to the fridge because you're bored or you have nothing to do? And you can do that by asking yourself before you get something out of the fridge, are you actually hungry? Or are you actually tired and bored? Or if you're just thirsty? Your overall lifestyle makes the biggest difference to your health. And reading your labels, we had a whole session about how to read labels, looking at the back of the ingredient list as well as the nutrition facts label. Sometimes when a product is labeled low fat in the front, can mean various things. It doesn't mean that it's healthy, because it can also contain refined carbs, a lot of calories, a lot of sugar and sodium. So you want to always look at the percentage of the sugar and sodium levels. Make sure it's below 15% before you buy the product. As well as fiber is your friend. If you want something that is more fiber, so you try to look at the fiber content and buy something that's more than 3 grams, because your goal is to be at least 25 grams of fiber a day. Okay, some steps you can take. Prevention is always key. You won't want to wait until you are hospitalized or you need medication before you take care of yourself. Try visiting HealthLink BC or even calling 811 to talk to a physician or a dietitian. They're always available to help you answer your questions and concerns. BC Dietitians are also a really good site, bcdietitians.ca. They can link you up with a dietitian that's close to your area, and you can talk to them, and they will recommend you a private practice dietitian that you can visit. Okay, so coming back to the kitchen, we are going to cook something. So we had a chat. Oh, hi, Renee. Hi, Renee. Hi, Amy. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be cooking some really healthy and fabulous foods today. So we're going to be using the rest of my zucchini. And we're going to make a different recipe than last week. So last week we made some zucchini steaks, but today we're going to make a nice brunch item, and I'm very excited to show you. So some of the ingredients we have is some baby kale. You can use baby spinach or spring mix or mesclun mix. It's whatever you have in your fridge or you can find in your grocery store that's more like a ready-to-eat salad. That's going to be on the bottom of our plate to make it look fuller, okay? So these are already washed, and I'm going to just put it on the bottom of our plate to prepare for what we're going to make. Okay, so we have about 2 cups of loose kale here, all right? And kale has a lot of good benefits, like good vitamin K. It's got a lot of fiber, and it also is considered a leafy green, and that's really good for circulation, also, good for your heart, as well as lowering your cholesterol. And it's also got a lot of polyphenols like chlorophyll in it. It's an antioxidant. And we have some cooking oil. I have here a grapeseed oil. I have a avocado here that I'm going to only use half an avocado. So this is a really big avocado, if you can see. So you want to and look at the size of your fruit. This is almost like a 1.5 regular avocado, and you want to really see your portion sizes. I'm actually going to only use 1/3 of this, and that will be sufficient enough. And if you don't want to fuss, you can always, put it in a measuring cup. It's really also fine for you. We have some basil for garnish, zucchini that my friend Amy actually bought me, and it's a really big zucchini. There's some buckwheat groats, and these are toasted buckwheat groats. And buckwheat is actually a really, really flavorful whole grain. And they are really pretty. They almost looked like heart-shaped little groats, if you can see. They're really, really pretty. And these, you can toast them prior, or you can buy them toasted. Although I don't recommend buying any grains toasted because the oils in the grains are released and they can go rancid a little bit quicker. So I like to buy all my grains and seeds raw, and then I can toast them at home, and they can keep longer in a cooler and darker place in your kitchen. Okay, and then we have some eggs. Okay, and this is our protein for the day. And then I also make a tomato compote, or it can be a tomato sauce. I know I said to limit your amount of tomatoes if you have GERD, but what I've done here is I actually blended some carrots into it. So you can also blend a different type of fruits or vegetables in your tomato to decrease the amount of acidity. And we're only going to be using a very little bit. And what we have with the avocado is actually cutting the acid in the tomato. So that can also be something that you can use at home if you have tomato sauce that you want to use up, but you also are afraid of acid, high acid. What you can do is put tomato sauce in a blender and throw in either zucchini or carrots or beans or green peas or even like peas into the blender, and then you can decrease the amount of tomatoes that you're using in your recipe, right? And this is exactly what I did with my tomato compote. I added carrots and I also added coriander seeds, so this is not going to be as acidic as before. And also limiting the amounts that you use can also affect the acidity in your overall meal. And because we're using avocados and kale and zucchini and buckwheats, that can also cut the acidity. And I have a little piece of Parmesan Reggiano with a little grater that we're going to finish off the dish. So as I said, decreasing the portion sizes with a grater can actually help. A grater can actually make the amount of cheese look a lot fuller. Therefore, you don't need too much of it, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the zucchini into larger pieces, like zucchini steaks. These are really, this is a gigantic zucchini from Vita Farms in Richmond. Okay, so I'm going to just cut two. All right, and these are going to be acting like a bread instead of any bread that we're using. So we're going to make like a really fun sort of a eggs Benny style brunch dish today. So I'm going to turn on the skillet and I'm going to add about a teaspoon of oil into it. And then on the other side of, I have another smaller skillet for my eggs. And if you have poached eggs, you can go ahead and do that too. Whatever you want with do with your eggs, you can also do that. So I'm going to turn both of it on, and I'm going to bring you guys closer to the stove once I'm ready. I'm going to open my tomato compote, and it smells great. I can smell the coriander seeds and a little bit of the carrots. The carrots also provide a little bit of sweetness as well as extra fiber in your sauce. So when the zucchinis are cut, you can place them directly on the oil and then wait for the sizzle to happen. And during that time, I'm going to add a little bit of salt, okay, onto the zucchini. Just a little pinch. And then a little bit of pepper also. Okay, just a little bit for some flavor. All right, I'm just going to wait for the the zucchini steaks to cook. And I'm going to cut my avocado. And I'm going to cut 1/3 of it off only. Isn't that beautiful? Avocado is actually also you know, a happy food, if you can imagine. It's got a precursor to serotonin in it. And what I'm going to do is to make a little paste for my zucchini steaks. So what I've done with the avocado is cut them into little cubes, and we're going to spoon it out into a mixing bowl. All right. I just love how this looks. It's just so exciting. And avocado is really, really yummy and creamy. All right, so I'm going to use my spoon to mix the avocado around. And then with my other spoon, I'm going to spoon in some tomato carrot compote. I can hear the zucchini, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a tong. I'm going to check out one side to see if it's golden brown yet. And you only want to turn it once it's golden brown. And on the back, I'm going to put in some eggs. So in the meantime, I'm going to bring you guys closer to my stove, and you can see exactly what is going on here. Okay, so the zucchini steaks are chilling. And this is not yet golden brown. Going to make sure that they're golden brown before we turn it. And on the back, so this shouldn't take that long. I'm going to go ahead and fry my egg. Great. The eggs are almost ready also, and I'm going to turn my zucchini around. As you can see, it's nice and golden brown on one side. And then we're going to wait for the eggs to cook. And during the cooking of the eggs, you can add a little bit of seasoning. If you have some garlic powder, you can also go ahead and add that. On the other side of that one, and I love using zucchini as the bottom of my egg benedict because there are a lot of moisture in here, and I find it very yummy when I cut into the egg. I'm gonna get the plate of kale that I have here. And then as you can see, our tomato paste and our avocados have also created a nice sauce. And once we mix that in, I'm going to add a little bit of the buckwheat groats in the avocado mix. So it's about a tablespoon of that in here. All right.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this heat off because the zucchini is pretty much finished cooking. You can see that the zucchini is turned a little bit more translucent like onions, and that's pretty much done. You want to keep the moisture inside the zucchini. And then the eggs also are almost done. Also, if you want to make it more hard, you can keep it on for a little bit longer. If you like a nice and medium runny egg, you can take it off now. I like mine a little bit harder, but also the yolk can be a little bit more substantial, right? Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is add that to the top of my bed of kale. Isn't that beautiful, this zucchini steak we have here? Okay, and then we're going to put our avocado sauce over the zucchini steak. On top of the zucchini. And I'm gonna leave a little bit in here. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of my compote. Okay, so now the eggs are done. I'm gonna gently move them on top of my avocados. So make sure that I have a little space to put my egg in the middle. This would be a little bit easier if you were poaching the eggs. All right. So if you like sunny side up, you don't have to turn it. I love that crispy edge on the eggs, so make sure that you get that too. There you go. And that goes on top of our avocado. And all of it is turned off. And I'm gonna bring you back to the front here. And you can see what I'm gonna do with the other dressing. So I left a little bit of the buckwheat on here. I mean, buckwheat and avocado and tomato and carrot. And I'm gonna add a little bit more of this tomato carrot paste. Okay, and then a little bit of olive oil. So this is just some extra virgin olive oil. We're not gonna add any vinegar because the tomato is good enough. We're just gonna toss it around a little bit more. And just dollop it around the kale, and that will be our dressing. Excuse me. And then at the end, you want to grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese. It could be whatever cheese you like, directly on top. It's falling down like snowflakes, which makes it really beautiful. So I like to do this with harder cheeses because I am lactose intolerant. So the harder the cheese, the less lactose there is. And the thinner the grate
softer it is, the less cheese that you need to use. Okay, so there we go. We're gonna garnish it with a nice bouquet of basil that I grew in my garden. And the basil will really add a lot of flavor and color to your dish. All right, so here's just like a nice brunch idea for you, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's cooking demo, and you can try this at home. All right, is there any other questions for me? What you can do is also sprinkle some extra buckwheat groats on top. So these are toasted, so if you buy untoasted, you want to toast them to cook them. And this will give it a good crunch when you're eating this dish. And you'll find that you don't need too much sauce because the zucchini is juicy enough. So once you cut into the zucchini and the egg, you'll find that it can create a sauce also for you to eat the salad with.